What are the myths that got debunked multiple times but still believed by people? That one thing about swallowing like 7 spiders a year in your sleep. Why the hell did anyone ever think that was a thing, Lamau? Damn Spider Georg skewing stats again. Spiders Georg is just a statistical outlier. And should not be counted. The myth that cracking your knuckles can cause arthritis. Once in elementary school I told my teacher it was a myth and she said I was wrong and I got in trouble. Fuck her. Lamau. Teachers were really on some other type of bullshit, huh? Like, they'll get you busted just because of your thought process or opinion. Someone I know got a Saturday detention, the worst punishment that could be doled out without being suspended, because they made a joke. The teacher talked about how tectonic shift is bringing Australia and New Zealand closer together by a very small distance every year. This kid stuck up his hand and asked, jokingly, if that meant flights between Australia and New Zealand would get cheaper by a few cents every year. She flipped her shit and gave him said detention. He was 10 at the time. When I was 10 my grandfather died. When I went to school on Monday, the teacher mentioned my grandfather died and asked if I wanted to say anything about him. All I could think of was to say that, after he died they found a lottery ticket in his pocket and the ticket ended up winning. This kid, Curtis something, blurted out I guess you could say he was dying to win. I burst out laughing with everyone else, the first good laugh I had in a few days. Curtis got sent to the principal's office to my objection. My grandfather would have found the joke hilarious, and to this day I think that was really fucking clever for a 10-year-old. That shaving body hair will make it grow back thicker. Your heart stops when you sneeze. People actually believe that. I was told that's why people say bless you when you sneeze. Just in case your heart doesn't start beating again, lol. I was told it's because your soul was trying to escape. And saying God bless you crams it back in. But there are hot singles in my area dying to meet me. In my case that ain't exactly wrong. They would probably kill themselves if they met me. Bro. If you can't see the hot singles in your area it means that you're the hot single. That urine is sterile. Professional lazy Googler here. Apparently your bladder naturally contains a healthy amount of bacteria that maintain the integrity of your bladder's lining. According to Healthline. Neat. You learn something new every day. Sure, but what about urine? Coffee, not the mug. If your mug has living bacteria in it, your coffee does too. That the McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit was frivolous. That poor lady had third-degree burns. Half-truths in the media sometimes. She also was only asking for $20,000 for her 8 days of skin grafts and 2 years of medical treatments. Pretty reasonable. McDonald's refused basically because they didn't want the bad rep. Which backfired. Blew up in the media through no fault of the lady. Which put pressure on McDonald's whom settled. If I recall correctly, been a long time since we did study this in class. McDonald's defense was that they served their coffee near boiling, 200 F93C, because it would allow the coffee to stay at a more desirable temperature for customers if McDonald's used a cheaper uninsulated cup instead of an insulated one. I think the price difference between cups was like 1 to 3 cents. This was ruled negligent on McDonald's part because who the fuck hands boiling liquid through a window to someone in car in paper cup. Particularly when it was to save a penny. None of this was intended by the lady. McDonald's just fucked themselves by completely disregarding safety to save a few bucks, was caught, and basically fined through the lawsuit. Pretty standard. And interior memos showed they knew serious burns were likely. But they decided the costs of any legal fees were cheaper than changing their process. And the outrageous sum that she never saw was something like 3 days of McDonald's coffee sales. Man, did corporations win the culture war on tort reform off of that case though. She wasn't even the first person that had gotten injured from that coffee. Just the most severe. They had been told, multiple times, that it was unsafe. That humans use 10% of their brain. I mean sometimes I use that much. I guess the implication is that 10% is being actively used, like manually. As opposed to the 90% of stuff that just happens without your control, breathing, heart beating, digesting, kidneying, etc. That's what I always interpreted from this anyway. Flat Earth. I don't think flat earthers really truly believe it. It's more the sense of community and that they belong and identify with something. Humans love a club. Then they should try paintball instead, lol. Paintflit. Okay, but playing paintisk sounds like it would be fun though. That being autistic means you're a socially maladjusted weirdo who also has magic memory skill powers where they're super good at whatever they're interested in. It's not a superpower, people. The Good Doctor is one of the most deplorable examples of this myth. If I found out the show was pitched as a joke and was accidentally taken seriously by the studio, I'd believe it. The general public doesn't actually want to watch neurodivergent people or those with mental illness struggling. It's incredibly painful to watch. The whole saving thing, though, is super fun for people. But your blood is blue. It's not blue. It never was. Oh yeah, I'm a horseshoe crab. I before E except after C. Isn't that weird? D. Not very efficient, is it? Just Google Drive Andrew Wakefield. Fucked up kids vaccines years ago before being discredited. What a moron. Don't Google him. Google Brian Deere's documentary about him. The Bomber Guy documentary is fantastic and horrific. https://yahoo. The 8 by Kazksfirk. Vaccines cause autism. Every time I get vaccinated, I deadass tell people that I'm going to get the latest patch update for my autism. Ironically, only other autistic people I know find it funny. Speaking as the mum of an autistic young man, I'm passing that one on so he can use it. Number. This was my response when people asked if I would get my children the COVID vaccine. They already have autism anyways. Flat Earth. Ridiculous. People either truly think it, I have no idea why, or they're just pissing around by saying it. A lot of the believers are evangelicals who think the Bible supports their view, and part of why they believe it is because it would validate their other beliefs. Plus they have an inherent desire for the world to be simple and a nebulous them that is turning people away from God by feeding them false secularist ideas is far more comforting to them than reality, where a lot of the BS of the world is caused by mundanity and there are no clear bad guys. MSG is bad for you. I fucking love MSG. It has taken the place of salt for me. I am so thankful for Uncle Roger for bringing it to my attention. Thank you, Roger. I'm still tired of hearing about the right brain, left brain thing. Or that you can have a math brain or a language brain. Sounds like your left brain has nothing right in it. And your right brain has nothing left in it. You have two hemispheres in your brain. And right now they're competing for third place. But the moon landings were faked. The best evidence that the moon landing wasn't fake is that even Russia confirmed that America beat them. I think the best evidence is the mirror system, retroreflector, Apollo 11 and others left behind. This lets you fire a laser beam at the moon and the mirror will reflect back to exactly where it came from. This experiment is how they accurately measure the distance between the Earth and Moon. There are multiple places on Earth that can do this. The Soviets landed retroreflectors on unmanned spacecraft and rovers. That alone isn't definitive proof of a crewed landing. We really don't need to look beyond the video and physical evidence of the lunar sample return material. It would be impossible to fake moving around in a vacuum at 1/6 Earth gravity with dust flying around in the late 60s. Cranberry juice can cure a UTI. It can promote a healthy urinary tract and help prevent them, but can't do anything to cure one once you get one. Also that you should eat fiber if you're constipated. Once you're constipated your shit is already compacted and you need to loosen it either naturally or with some sort of laxative. Fiber will only help the shit you produce after which is essentially backed up. Fiber will also make everything worse without enough water. Digestion alone takes a lot of water. And your large intestine pulls water from your stool to help keep you hydrated. Most constipation is from people being dehydrated, which includes electrolyte imbalance as well as just fluid loss. And every body is different when it comes to how much water plus electrolytes you should be consuming every day to balance what you lose. But oh lord, once you find that sweet spot, mine is around 2L, every excretory function works flawlessly: kidneys, colon, sweat, sexual fluids. But also literally every bodily process, cognitive function, energy levels, physical fitness. Glowing skin, persistent adult acne is a major sign of sluggish digestion. For some reason people believe electrolytes are healthy, but salt is unhealthy. It's the same damn thing. Main issue with salt is that processed salt is often just sodium chloride, which can put the electrolyte balance out of whack. All about the balance. Electrolytes are the how and why water is moved throughout the body and its tissues. There's good reason why salty heavy foods are good hangover cures. Also some people think drinking water will help a headache, but sometimes you actually need some fucking salt, not diluting yourself further with more water. Even people who fast make sure to get their electrolytes. But the earth is flat. It's a fucking pyramid. Triangles are still flat. Nah, it's a triangle like a 3D Dorito from way back in the day. The Amityville Horror. Well, the murders happened. The murders did happen. Everything else is bullshit. Theo died in prison not too long ago. The Lutzes who purchased the house after the murder were in over their heads and couldn't afford the house. They were pretty much fake bowlers, but soon realized their mistake. What better way to get out from under a debt you can't pay than to make up a ghost story and sell it and flee from the house for their lives? Not 100% bullshit. You know the scene with all the flies. I bought an old house and have the exact same thing. I've had professionals come in and confirm it. It really is a horror and the cause terrifies me. Especially lately. It's so scary it keeps me up at night. The reason for the horde of flies is poor insulation. The insulin carbohydrate hypothesis. Dozens, if not hundreds of clinical studies have shown that carbohydrates do not make you fat when energy expenditure is the same as or greater than energy intake. Sugar makes kids hyper. As a kid, when I would wake up scared from a nightmare, my mom would give me a teaspoonful of sugar and tell me that it helps one calm down and relaxes the body. Did any science behind it, and pretty sure it was a placebo, but it worked, and now I always associate sugar as calming. And it helps the medicine go down. Or so I've heard. In the most delightful way. Just a spoonful. Pulls out a comically large spoon. Brendan Urie isn't a pedo. All of his allegations were proven false multiple times and people still believe that they are true. This is the first time I'm hearing about him being a pedo. I don't know who that is, but I just learned he's a falsely accused pedo. He's the lead, well, everything. And sole constant member of the band Panic! At the Disco. As far as I know. That might have changed recently. But I don't know. That introversion means that you suck at socializing or that you have a debilitating fear aversion to socializing. Introversion literally just means that you gain energy from alone time and socializing drains you. But people took it, made it an entire personality and ran with it and started mistaking social anxiety with it. Made it an entire personality, fully understand, making few jokes about needing alone time to recharge the batteries and all that, but it's really annoying when people decide it's their entire personality and act like it's some weird unique quirk to have. That Russia is a military and economic superpower. They're not the biggest economy and they're not the biggest military either. They only lead the world in nuclear warheads by an astounding amount. But their economy, if I'm not mistaken, is the 7th to 8th economy of the world. How have they proven how many warheads they have? There have been enough holes poked into the might of the Russian military over the last 2 weeks. I'm wondering if there are some holes to poke in how vast their nuclear arsenal is as well. That video games cause violence. Roses are red, violence is black and blue. Yeah, I hit him with a PlayStation. But it was only a PS2.